Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wealth Up with Donnie Mangos. Yours truly. We talk about a lot of things to do with wealth. Not because you want to have like stacks and stacks of cash, but because the cash, the wealth, creates freedom, creates life worth living. Lifestyle is what it's all about. We're going to have discussions along those lines with our very special guest today, Staci Millard. And Staci is, well, you're everything. How about I start with the top two things? Staci is the founder of Thrive Accounting, which is the preeminent accounting and bookkeeping firm in Canada for small businesses. And she's also the host of her own amazing podcast called A Small Business School. Is that right?
That is
Did I
right.
nail it? That's who you are, right, Staci?
Do you ever get that question and they're like, no, but not just what you do, who you are? And I'm like, I don't know how to answer that.
I hate that. You're right. You do those things for sure. That's not who you are. You do those things. You're also
Yeah.
an amazing person. You're a good friend. You're a wonderful person, like I said. And you're also a vendor. I'm a client. So there it is on the line. People know that I do have a bias towards Staci, and it's because she's earned it. So there you go. Staci, how are you?
That's the highest honor, earning it. I actually approach all business that way. I'm eager to earn it. I don't know if there's something there for me, but it's like, how can I provide value before I ever ask you to do business with us?
I love that.
Yeah.
We
I am
got
having a great day.
That's
Are you
amazing.
having a great
I
day?
am having a good day. We're in different
Okay.
time zones, so you're still in morning and I'm in the afternoon over here. But I will tell you right
Yeah.
now, because this is what I do for a living. I predict the future. Your afternoon's going to be great because I can see it right now where I am. It's lovely out there. Uh,
Amazing.
I'm on my probably 15th coffee at this point because it is afternoon. But
Yeah.
we're getting there. Anyway, Staci, thank you for being here. I was a guest on Staci's podcast, and that was a whole bunch of fun. And it's what we do when you're a podcaster. You say, you know what? I'll go on your show and you come on my show. What do you think? That's what we did.
I think it's so fun because it gives you the different perspectives and angles, right? Like I got to ask you all the questions about what you're really good at. And then now I get to also give you my expertise. And I approach podcasting like it's kind of like almost like I get a mini session with somebody where I'm like, okay, I can ask them everything that I'm like dying to know
Totally.
from this person. And
And they have to answer because
yeah,
if they don't,
I know.
you avoided a question.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
that note, this is my podcast, Nasta. I got lost
So
to
I'm
ask
here
you.
for it. Whatever you
No,
want.
it's all good. So, here's how I look at things, and this is going to be the direction of our conversation today. There's two things that happen. We're going to talk about small business owners because that's primarily who you serve. Though, of course, you help individuals and all of that. For the purposes of this discussion, we're going to focus on some small business owners, entrepreneurs, Canadian entrepreneurs. And I want to talk about, like, there's really two different things that happen to entrepreneurs in general. You're either out there focused on building your business, like making revenue, or where I live is after that, what are you doing with that revenue so that it's feeding the life that you want? Okay, so there's revenue and it's completely business-based stuff. Then there's very personal stuff on the other side where we're talking about how does this nurture you? How does this feed your soul? How does it build for your future? So with that in mind, we've had many talks about part two of what I said, and this could be a part two for our discussion. But I really believe you have a lot of info and advice that you could share on the first part, helping owners figure out how to run a profitable business. So are you cool if we stay in that direction today?
I am here for it because I think 90% of the people who start a business are in that category, the first category, right? You're really great and you have so much, your book, the podcast out there, all this information on the 10% when it's like, okay, we are generating money. Now, what do we do with it? But so many people, like the failure statistics are what they are because so many people get stuck. The 90% get stuck at that first part of how do I make this business make money?
And I think it's very important. So we're gonna talk about that because so in your experience, your profession, what you do is you help business owners, entrepreneurs. You see their numbers, You see what their ins and outs are. You help coach them through, maybe you should be operating this in a different way, or maybe have you considered this as an option and things like that. And that goes far beyond just bookkeeping and filing tax returns. This is small business coaching, if you will. And I know that that's what feeds your soul as well. You love helping people expand their businesses, scale it up. So what I want to talk about is, we're going to focus on some bad and some good. I do want to know what it is that you see from business owners that is contributing to failure. We talked about a lot of businesses fail. I want to know why. What do you think is happening? And maybe you can give me your top 3 or 2 or 3 if you can, what you notice out there.
Yeah, I actually think that for the most part, it can boil down to one thing, in it's not having the perspective of what it's going to take to make money for that business and not building risk into that. So what I mean by that is that a lot of businesses do not start with like a framework of where are we going to be profitable? What is this business going to look like when it's operating? How are we going to be able to afford to pay everybody? And do we have the right cash runway to get there? Because you don't start with the client list that is going to give you,
Right.
$10,000 months, right? So it's the framework. They're missing the concept of what would this business look like if it was making money? And so without working in that direction, a lot of the time you're just seeing entrepreneurs chase revenue, overworking, but getting underpaid. They're committing to different expenses that they don't know how that drives profit. But it's that one thing of they don't really have the right goalpost, and they don't have the vision of what that business looks like at that stage that they want to get to. So they miss the mark on getting there.
So the classic, they're too busy working in their business to work on their business and think about what is they're looking for. Like, why they're here.
Yeah.
What is the
So
sure.
I saw a post the other day and I laughed because like we're all allergic to business plans. And I think I'm allergic to a business plan as well. Like I don't like the idea of 20 pages, but there's things that a business plan can actually help you with, right? The market research. Am I delivering a product that this customer wants at a price point they want it at? Am I, what are my costs every month? What's it going to cost me to do this? Like, how do I hire these people? How do I pay myself? That goes into a business plan. It's that concept. And there was a local business that put a post up on social media the other day that they're closing. And interestingly, this business was a storefront for a ton of other small businesses. And in their post, they wrote, we're closing our doors after 2 years. Like, we have to close our doors. And she said, I didn't start with a business plan. And I'm like, maybe you wouldn't be closing your doors.
Yeah.
We didn't start with a business plan because in my mind, if you had reversed it and said, okay, I've got this much rent to pay, and then I have to pay these staff to work this business, and really understood like what are your costs monthly, then you'd be able to go back to, okay, well, what kind of sales do we have to do? What kind of percentage do we need on the commission of these people's products that we're selling? How many retailers do I need within this space? And so I think she would have maybe done some marketing differently, maybe had the businesses that were within her storefront put out more marketing for her to bring them into the store. I think she would have done a lot of things differently. And I don't know this owner. I only know that she exists. I'm not telling anything that's confidential. But I'm looking at it. I'm like, I think there would have been a lot of things done differently if you knew the numbers to start with and had that clarity of what does this model need to look like to be successful.
So, have you ever read The E-Myth, the book?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to spend a minute there, okay? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people wouldn't have read The E-Myth or understood what I'm about to say. But so The E-Myth, wonderful book, very easy to read or listen to, super simple. And it talks about somebody, I think she's some gal who likes making pies. Remember that? Yeah, so it's her grandma's recipe. She makes pies. And she loves this pie. And everyone loves eating that whatever pie that she makes. And so she's like, you know what? I'm gonna do this for myself. I'm gonna go into business and I'm gonna make pies. This is what I'm gonna do. And people are gonna love it. It's gonna be amazing. She loved making pies. Okay. So she goes out and starts a business and does all that kind of stuff. Now she's got to do all the things that would probably be identified in a business plan. You need to find a space, got to find staff, marketing, operational budgets, all of this stuff. And what she found was in doing all of that, she hated making pies. Like she couldn't get around to. She was resentful towards the entire process because what she set out to achieve, she didn't because she was trapped in this whole entrepreneur vortex of doing everything, whatever, and never asking for help. And I think there's plenty of lessons in that book. One is if you're going to go on your own and be an entrepreneur, understand what is going to happen. The thing that you meant to do, the thing that you love to do, if you actually want to make that your job, you've got a staff, you got to figure out the rest of it. You have to have a plan to fill those holes. Otherwise, you're going to be that person. If you don't have an
Yeah.
admin, guess who's your admin? Yourself. So those are kinds of things I'm trying to say here.
I think though, like what business owners miss is like anything's possible. If you want to be making the pies, that's possible. But going back to like understanding the framework is we just have to put the time and intention behind understanding, well, what would we need to do so that I could be making the pies, but somebody else is covering the other functions within the business. And as
Right.
soon as you understand how much does that cost, then you can understand how many dollars do we have to do in sales. And where small business owners, I think, burn out is they maybe have, maybe they have enough business to sell 15 pies a day right now. But to afford all of that, they have to sell 65 pies a day.
Yeah.
And because they don't even know the 65, all they know is that they're working harder, working harder, working harder. They're making more pies. They're trying to do more things. They got to do the marketing. And they don't even know what that goal is. So they burn out in the process.
No kidding.
And maybe if they'd seen, hey, we've got, 15 pies worth of demand for today, but I got to sell 65. They're like, I don't really want to do this. I'm actually not going to invest in all this equipment that I'm going to have to pay for. And like, they might make different decisions if they understood what it was going to take to get to that goal that really they just didn't define.
It's almost like they need a business intervention. They need a Staci intervention. They need someone to go in there and say, I know I can see your future. Here's what it looks like. You're going to burn out. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to double your sales. You're just going to figure out a way to find all that time and to keep doing more of it. So you're going to double what you need to do. And you're probably going to spend accordingly. And you're not really going to consider, how does this all fit into what I want from my life? You're just going to keep doing it and you're not going to look up. You're just going to be head down doing. And you're going to wake up in three, 4 years and be like, how did I get here? I don't like any of this. What am I doing all this for? What am I building towards? When do I achieve success? What's my enough? Those are hard questions. But if you have, at least if you're being asked simple questions like in a business plan would, and like I'm sure ChatGPT and all these AI tools can be very easy to converse with. What am I missing? What should I consider? And they will ask you things like, well, have you thought about days off? Have you thought about, if you get sick, you thought about things like this and how this all fits into your business? Or better than that is a human being who's been through this. I think it's important questions to ask. It needs to be a business plan of sorts. It doesn't need to be, I don't think, overly drawn out, but you need to be directionally correct.
Yeah. I don't even like the word business plan. I think there comes with so many ideas of it because when you go to a bank for financing, or, VC funding, they want this plan and it's like 35 pages. And a lot of people just put the fluff into it, right? They're just kind of writing things out because they actually haven't been a business owner and maybe they haven't went and spoke to friends who own a business. And so they're like, yeah, I'm going to hire 2 employees, but they don't realize that you have to pay stat pay and vacation pay and like all these things and that there's different options. And so I think for me, it comes down to we're almost just diving in without knowing where we're going or what we're diving into. And so the business plan, whatever word you want to call it, is more so about being aware of what we're up against and putting an action plan together. So we're taking the right steps because a lot of business owners burn out in the process of like doing the things, right? It's another great book. It's called Making Money's Killing Your Business because you're always chasing money and there's a treadmill behind it. Profit First brings a lot of clarity to this. Like there's some fantastic books out there. But it's all about, we just don't have that concept of like, where are we really going? And we don't have the clarity.
Yeah. And so I can see the mistakes compounding and then it ultimately leads to failure. And nobody wants that. Like to put so much effort into what it is you're going to set out to achieve only to fail, it's so humbling, it's so painful. And a lot of times, like for example, the lady in your town there, probably preventable if you just
Mhm.
had awareness, foresight to say, maybe I should give a little bit of time to thinking things through before I go right into it, whatever it is. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a story that stuck with me for a lot of years, and it was probably about 7 years ago. A client that I had was looking at investing in another business, and they came to me and they said, "We're looking to invest in this franchise that we want to open up." And we actually did a lot of work because the franchise in that case gave a lot of different numbers. And we really went back to, here's the rent, here's some of the overhead. And what we got back to is like we had to sell X dollars a day from this business. And it was so massive just to break even. The numbers didn't work. And I want to tell you, so this was an immigrant family. There was 8 of them together that had saved their money working minimum wage jobs. And they were going to invest their earnings from doing that into this business. It was 200 and some $1,000. And I'm like, please do not do this. Like, if you want to throw away $200,000, like, give me the money. I'll put it in a GIC for you or something
Mhm.
because, like, I couldn't fathom the idea of how
Ouch.
hard they'd worked for this. And they did not invest in it. And then they waited and they found an incredible opportunity. And that business is making them money. But they asked me about it. And when I could provide them the clarity of, like, wow, we got to sell this many dollars a day. Like, do you think the competitor on the other side of town is doing that much? They were like, no. And so the franchise, like they got excited about it, right? They're like, oh yeah, like they're telling me we could make this is what's possible for our future. And they wanted the credibility that came with owning a business, and they wanted to be involved in the community, and they had all of those dreams in front of them. And so it was so hard to be like, hey, your reality is probably going to look really different from this dream that is being painted for you. But because they were able to do that with the numbers and looking at the financial aspect of it, literally gave them such a better opportunity. And I can guarantee, like, 199% guarantee you that they would have blown every penny and went out of business.
Brutal.
There was no way that that business was going to make money.
Look at you, the hero. Staci's saying, don't do it. You know what? A lot of times, people like that, people like me, we're looking at you, and unfairly, I want you to, like, I'm on the record saying this is unfair, that we asked you for the go, no go, like launch or don't launch. We kind of push it over to you because we don't want to make the decision. And I want to say, on behalf of all of us, I'm sorry that we do that to you. But we need you, and we value your opinion, and we want to know how you feel. So thank you for
You know the
stating that.
hard part?
Yeah.
You know the hard part about this is that social media right now, there's a lot of messages about like you just didn't believe in it enough. You didn't work hard enough. Like if you believed in it, you would have made it happen. And so I think could they have made it happen? Like going back, like I don't know. There's a lot of things that they would have had to make happen. They would have probably had to do a lot of their own time for free and like all these things. And it's like those were non-negotiables for them. So they were like, no, like that's not worth it. But the problem is that the picture is painted that any business can be successful as long as you try hard enough. And I don't think that's the case. But like in this case, all they wanted was to be a business owner. They wanted to deliver something for the community. They wanted their work to matter. And so it wasn't about like, yeah, this was a go, no go, but it was like, okay, let's find a different opportunity. It wasn't like I'm just crushing your dreams and that's it. It's like, let's find a better opportunity, right? No different than like if a stock is, overpriced on the stock market, we're not looking at it like, okay, we should buy it and then we're upset. We look for a different stock to invest in that has a better valuation, right?
It's just
So,
critical thinking.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we talked about some mistakes.
Mhm.
What are people doing well in that case, in small businesses in Canada?
Yeah. I think the number one factor that will lead to success beyond knowing the financial framework that will bring in money is being able to accurately connect with your potential customer, client, whoever you're selling to. If you know them, you will be infinitely better off And what I mean by that is you need to know what is important to them. Am I selling them something at a price point that they want to pay for? Do I have the right value proposition for them? Am I speaking to them in the right language? Because the number one thing for any small business is getting the sales, right? That is year 1 through 2 is just about being able to sell and do a proof of concept. And we can start working on refinement and better margins and all those things after. But if you don't have a customer, you don't have a business.
Right.
And so I don't think enough people invest in knowledge in like the psychology of selling, marketing, because going back to the E-Myth, it's like we just wanted to sell pies, right? And the business owners that I see that have the most massive success are the ones that understand the language of selling pies and why their customers want pies. Because your marketing costs will be less, like there's virality behind it. When you really connect with your customer and you know they want these pies, this is what they're willing to pay for those pies, and this is how I can attract them to buy them, that's everything. And so I had read a couple books on, early on, I read a couple books on copywriting. So it was about the language that you're using to connect and like how to create a headline. And I'm not saying that I necessarily use that every day, because if you know me, like I'm terrible at my marketing. I don't have an email list. Like I don't necessarily use those skills that way. But what I know that I'm really good at is getting on a call, and I know our service and how we can help people, but I am good at bridging that gap for you of you're saying you need this and I'm like, here's how we help, right? So that is the ability to sell, but it's because I really know I'm intimate with the customer's needs. And so early on, we don't almost have enough experience with those customers. We haven't done any market research, number one, which would have led us to better results, but we're just not intimate enough. So financial framework of where do we need to go? And then, man, you just got to connect with your customer. And then later on, it starts getting into some like leadership skills and things like that. But at the really heart of it is we don't have the language to attract the customers. Maybe we're scared to sell. Some businesses, like we're using industry speak. Like if you were trying to sell me insurance and you were talking your insurance lingo, it'd be above my head. I wouldn't buy from you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So that's universal. It really is. Like we talk about service or product or anything. It's even business to business. I think it comes down to what do they want? How can you connect with them? So you're not necessarily saying relationship. You're not saying I need to know you personally. It's just in the way that I'm speaking. Do you feel what I'm talking about? Do you understand? Do you know that I hear you and that I can solve this problem for you? And that's hard. I mean, I think it's easier today than it was before because we can go to AI and say, here's the profile of my ideal audience. You know, they're self-employed. They are in the first 2 years of their business, product-based, whatever you want to say. You just keep going down this thing. And then you can start to say, what are you struggling with? What are they struggling with? Got nothing to do with their business, but in general, in that personality, what are they struggling with in their life? And then you start to find ways to marry that to what it is that you do. So I think it's easier, but just like before, you have to be intentional about trying to discover this stuff. You can't just happen upon it. I could sell lug nuts. No one's going to want to buy lug nuts from me. Like there's nothing I can say like what these lug nuts, but if I can paint a picture of how important these are, especially the ones that I have, and how I can create this value for them, I'm not selling lug nuts anymore. I'm selling what the lug nut represents, and that's, you know, you can attach them to your car, put them on the wheel, you can get to where you got to go. Without this, the whole thing doesn't work. So if I can somehow bring back the messaging, why this is important, it's very different than saying my lug nuts are 5/8 of an inch. I don't even know. I'm speaking like I know what I'm talking about in terms of cars.
You know what I think is so interesting though is that coming back to what we've spoke about so far is like one, looking at the model, right? So you want to pay yourself from the business. You've got some insurance. Like, do you need a warehouse? Are you doing this out of your garage? How much time are you spending selling these? What do the lug nuts cost you? What is your customer willing to buy them for? So there's a financial framework, and then there's a knowing the customer. And then when you get those sales targets and you're like, okay, to make this a viable business, I got to sell these lug nuts. How do I find the people that these are valuable to? And then it's being able to speak to them about it, right? Like, why is it valuable? Like, are you a cheaper price? Were you able to manage it? Is that what they're
Sure.
concerned about, is
Yeah.
saving money? Or is your lug nut special? And like being able to connect with them. But that is like literally business 101. And nobody takes that
Be-
before they get in.
It's because they're all like, I think her name was Mary, because they're all like Mary and they know making pies. They don't necessarily know how to talk to people about why this is so good or what's so special about it. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think, do you take on clients when it comes to coaching for small business? This has nothing to do with accounting. Just I'm asking you, do you take on clients in that capacity?
So I did for a long time, but now coaching is mostly reserved for our accounting clients. So we build in coaching when we are doing bookkeeping. We have a done for you service. So we actually build the coaching into what we do every month because it was really important to me. But um, I don't. We work with more business coaches. Like, so for example, a lot of the time with coaching, it's more accountability. Like, are you doing the right thing? So the coaches sometimes are missing the framework. We like to put the framework together, and then we like our clients to go institute it. So that's what we build into our accounting practice. It's not just filing the taxes when we have a done for you service. It's like reporting on where do you need to go? What's your next area of focus? So for example, like we have some service providers right now and they've done great things in terms of revenue numbers, but they're like, how is there nothing left to pay me at the end of the day? Like, how do you have a business that's making $1 million in revenue, but the owner's not taking pay? And this is a pretty common problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they didn't build out the financial model. So we're going back to them and saying, we need to make some of these changes in staffing. We need, some clients like looking at different things and saying, okay, what needs to happen? But a lot of the time, business coaches, I find, are more like the accountability. Like, did you make this change? Did you make this change? And I'm not always a big fan of paying. Like, I I pay business coaches, so maybe this is hypocritical, but I'm like, you don't need to pay me every month to say, did you do this? Does that make
The
sense? I'm
accountability
like,
coach. Yeah.
we'll report to you.
Yeah.
I can tell in the numbers if you did it or not. But I'm like, I don't think you need to pay me to be like, $350 an hour to say, like, did you make this change with your staff member? I don't want to be on a call doing that. I don't think I have as much impact. Like my ripples don't go as far if I spend a lot of time doing that.
Okay. I think it's pretty neat. I don't know that I've heard of anyone else doing what you just described though, where
Yeah.
because you have an actual intimate understanding of the business because you're looking at the numbers. Like there's nothing to hide here. Everything is
Hmm.
visible to you. I can't pretend that sales are good. You can see the results. So I think it's pretty cool that there is a service that exists where you can look at this and say, not only am I going to create the reports for you, tell you when you got to make your payments for GST and stuff like that, or HST, but I'm also going to tell you how to, like, where you have some holes in your plan and tell you what you need to do next. And then I'm going to ask you about it again next month. Thank you
So
for doing that.
what I like to do is like work with a business coach. So we have some coaches that we work with where it's like, we will provide that framework of, hey, we've looked at everything. We're as efficient as we can be on overhead. The margins are pretty decent. This is a volume game. They need to sell more. And so then they'll take that information back and we're like, we need you to hit this target. And then they'll work with a coach on, okay, how do I start selling more? Like, how do I work on the marketing? How do I get the messaging right? And so they'll go back to somebody else on that because like we're good at the numbers, right? And we're telling you this is where you need to be, and here's really that problem area. But then they work with the coach on the accountability side, or maybe they need to get out of their own way and be comfortable selling, like different things like that. But they'll work day to day with somebody on that where we're providing the framework. But that bridges the gap of you have a
Mm.
coach who doesn't necessarily know the numbers. So when they're giving you advice, because they don't know the numbers, they're giving advice that may or may not be accurate.
That's pretty neat. Um, I find that a lot of small business owners that I speak with, like they're the boss, right? They are their boss. So they are at the top of the pyramid. There's no one else beyond them. They don't even know that they should be asking for help or asking for questions because there's no one else there. They don't have a peer group. They don't have support. So if anyone's listening to this, I understand that just because you're alone doesn't mean you need to be alone. You really should be seeking some assistance. If anything I've learned in my life and my career, it's from Ask for help. You don't know it all, and that's okay. You do what you do exceptionally well. That's fantastic. We actually need you to do that. But you have limits too. I have limits. We all need help, and to learn the things we don't know, we don't know. And the way to fast track that is bring in somebody. It's leverage. Everything in my life, I believe, I'm a huge believer in leverage in many different ways. And this is just saying I'm going to use leverage to bring in the right person at the right time to help me grow. So I don't have to do all that, spend all this time, all this money trying and making all the mistakes, trying to get there. I can just bring in the pros. Staci Millard, this has been wonderful. I really enjoy our conversations. I think
Every time.
man, you got a lot of knowledge, and you got so much experience across so many different industries. Thank you for being amazing for all of us clients, for all of the future clients. I'm sure you've picked up a few people that are curious to know more about Staci. Can I just pass the baton on to you and say, Staci, how did people get a hold of you? Are you open to being contacted? And if so, how?
Oh yeah, I live for the conversations about business, so I'm always down for a DM or an email. But the best way to get in touch with me is on Instagram, staci.millard. If you find me on LinkedIn, you're probably not getting a response back for a month. You can't manage all the platforms,
so
but
Gen
if you
Z.
find me on Instagram, oh, I know, millennial here. I don't know.
All right, so Instagram. So everybody,
Instagram.
get off
Send
the
me a
platform.
DM.
You can get off YouTube or Spotify, whatever you're on right now. Go give Staci a follow and then say what's up. Tell her I say hi too, and let her help you as well. Staci, this is an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much for being here. And everybody else, go get wealthed up.